This video is brought to you by manscaped.com, the global leader in men's grooming tools and hygiene products and trusted by over 10 million men worldwide. Are you still using nasty washcloths to clean your body? If you are, you may not be fully removing all the bacteria and oils found deep inside of your skin that causes body odor, clogged pores, and breakouts. That's why you should check out Manscaped's Buff Bundle, the ultimate showering kit for men who want to look and feel their best. Starting off with the Manscaped Body Buffer, this is a handheld exfoliator brush designed to help remove dead skin, help unclog pores, and reduce ingrown hairs. With the Body Buffer, you get more out of your body cleanser from its lather boosting bristles, so your money doesn't go straight down the drain. Literally. The Buff Bundle comes with the Body Buffer and 2 bottles of the refined body wash. The body wash is infused with aloe vera and sea salts to keep your skin feeling clean, fresh, and moisturized. It's cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan, and scented with a cologne-quality fragrance. So ditch that dirty loofah and upgrade today. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off, plus free international shipping when you use code Garfield at checkout. That's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code Garfield at manscaped.com. After all, when it comes to grooming, they say that buff is always better. Rainbow Six Siege is an old game, and like any old game, it has cycled through several metas and its long and illustrious history as a competitive online shooter. Some of these metas were unique and exciting, while others were derivative and frustrating. But no matter whether you're a pro or a filthy casual, every meta usually has at least one character or strategy that is so broken you'd be foolish not to exploit it. Today, I'm going to flip through the pages of history and revisit the most broken metas of all time in Rainbow Six Siege. Which ones made it onto my list? Well, let me give you a brief look. Meet the Recruit M870 Rush meta, which was honestly more of a meme than an actual meta, but hey, it worked. As long as you had coordination and sheer freaking balls to pull it off, Recruit's speed and versatile loadout meant a team of 5 people could line up and just sprint and bum rush any location on the map and take out all the defenders. And then there's one of my favorites, the infamous Lion Scan meta. Think you can just stand still? Not an option when you're getting naded and flashbanged with 3 dudes rushing on your location. If you were a Valkyrie or Cav main during this period, trust me, I feel your pain. Finally, I have the most broken meta of them all, and you won't believe what it is. It almost slipped underneath everyone's radar until nobody could ignore it anymore. Do you want to know what made this meta so annoying? The sheer amount of preparation you needed to counter it, but I don't want to spoil too much, so you just have to watch to the very end. Trust me, it will be worth it. Let's kick things off with what I consider to be the less offensive meta, the Recruit M870 Rush meta. It began in year 1 and lasted until Operation Void Edge in 2020. And if I were to be pedantic, this wasn't a meta at all. Rather, it was a strategy used by teams who felt confident in their coordination and ability to overwhelm the defenders with sheer numbers.
Brazzers. Wait, what? What in the hell am I watching? A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And then we got Santa Claus up top dropping down from the chimney. Oh, so they're all blind. Okay.
This was basically a team's confident flex when they're up 3-0, basically just spitting in the enemy's face with sheer disrespect with the shotgun M870. And what's surprising is the M870 goes absolutely insane when you have 5 men just rushing inside of you. Defenders hated it because they had to improve with specific operators like smoke or carry C4s. Attackers loved it because they can act like complete hooligans and just YOLO it straight into objective. Man, those were good times when you and the boys could clown on the enemies with the most basic operator in the game. However, this strategy suffered when Ubisoft nerfed Recruit to make his loadout less viable in Void Edge update. And even now, sitting in year 9, he got completely reworked and you can only bring 1 recruit, which, in my opinion, completely sucks. Blackbeard. What can I say about this operator that hasn't already been said? Everyone knows the tale of old Nerfbeard and how he lost his favorite toy. Back in the day when R6 was launched, Blackbeard's ballistic shield had a whopping 800 HP. Yeah. I don't know what they were smoking in the Ubisoft office, but someone in playtesting should have pointed this out to the developers. Anyway, Blackbeard is released and he's easily the most powerful operator in the game with the highest KD and win rate. If you were a defender between December 2015 and September 2016, This bushy bearded gentleman would occasionally grace your sights for about 1 second before sending you into the Shadow Realm. See, Rainbow Six Siege is a game about headshots. One hit kill, no matter the gun. So when you have an operator who can face tank multiple headshots, it becomes less about skill and more about who picked the broken dude first. Blackbeard's job was to hold corners and stare through his scope until some unfortunate soul made the mistake of stepping in front of his gun. He wasn't fast, but then again, he didn't need to be. He could hold an entire hallway or corridor all by himself, just leaning outside of some random wall and with no fear of dying. Then Ubisoft dropped his shield HP to 150, massive downgrade from 800, but it made him feel like another operator rather than an unkillable god. Besides, he now carried 2 shields, so it introduced a resource management aspect to the operator that wasn't present before. You had to pick a safe spot to switch your shields, and you also had to decide how much damage you were willing to take before swapping shields. But then the nerfs kept flowing. We went from 150 HP in September to 60 by September. Blackbeard was literally nerfed twice within a span of 2 months. And that wasn't all. They also made it so his ADS speed was increased by nearly 3 times, from 0.25 seconds to 0.7 seconds. Okay, Ubisoft, I think we get the point. You can stop now. Holy crap. By 2021, Blackbeard's transformation into Neckbeard was finally complete, with a shield that only had 20 HP. Might as well glue 5 screen protectors together and call it a day. You know, that actually might be stronger than the shield Blackbeard has now. For the next update, which is scheduled to arrive in December, Ubisoft is going to rework Blackbeard, because reducing the number on his shield can only do so much. Blackbeard has always been a controversial character, and I'm excited to see how Ubisoft reworks him to maintain his viability in competitive without buffing him to the point where he becomes a total menace like before. Next up is everyone's favorite NAS agent, Lion. He's like a walking surveillance aircraft because he can spot anyone across the entire map as long as they're moving. So if you're playing a roamer who likes to run and relies on their quiet footsteps to sneak behind people with a silenced gun, tough luck. And even if you try to sit in sight and don't move when you see the scan notification, well, think again. Because a good Lion player will pop the scan right before his team rushes into the site or tries to correlate with their teammates and time the proper gadget deployment. By the time the stun grenades have worn off, you'll find yourself staring at a spectator screen. While Lion was pretty overpowered in ranked, he was even more broken in competitive play. Having Lion on the enemy team meant that you couldn't play defense because there was no gadget or strat that could use to bypass him, unless, you were able to spawn peek or run out on him very early on. Ubisoft didn't know what to do, so they put him in competitive quarantine, which is another way of saying he got removed from all the Pro League games until further notice. This tells you how broken the Lion scan meta was, when the guys running the Pro League had no chance and no choice but to remove him altogether. Lion was removed from quarantine after some of his nerfs. His scan duration was reduced by half, but the cooldown was reduced, and he now had 3 charges instead of 2. So instead of acting like a strike coordinator, Lion was more of an intel gatherer. Vigil's cloak was made immune to Lion scan, which gave opposing teams a nice counter to the extremely powerful operator. All things considered, the Lion scan meta had a pretty solid run as it lasted from March 2018 till April 2019. That's over 1 year of dominance. Speaking of dominance, remember the bullet hole meta that was running rampant from year 1 until 2021 when Ubisoft finally removed lines of sight from individual holes? This meta was abused by a ton by 1.5 and ACOG warriors, the latter using it to score easy spawn kills with tiny bullet holes. You got a clear line of sight into the adjacent hallway or room and could easily chip down attackers as they push towards the objective. Campers could abuse the bullet hole mechanic to their advantage and pre-fire on enemies as soon as they came into view. You could run away or try to search for the source of the incoming fire, but it was usually too late, especially against a skilled opponent with the ACOG. Thanks to the new change, players must now make larger holes which are more easily noticeable. For example, bullet holes got completely taking out of the game. So if you wanted to get a peak like that, you would have to come up with some crazy Azami strat that would give you a one-way angle, or you would just have to use a punch hole like every other normal human. Bullet hole peaks were probably the most annoying thing in Siege, especially with visibility being a huge problem for a lot of players. So I'm glad that this was taken out, and it was super annoying. Have you ever seen those SEAL team training videos in which they aggressively jerk from side to side, like they're having seizure while shooting at targets on the range? Yeah, me neither. But since Rainbow Six Siege is a somewhat realistic tactical shooter, what? It's not? But it's called Rainbow Six Siege, and all previous games were serious tactical shooters. Oh, this is a tactical competitive online game? Gotcha. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Because in real life, we don't have laser turrets, holograms, nanotech, and Instagram models in yoga pants running around throwing fart bombs at each other. Nevertheless, the lean spamming meta was quite infuriating, precisely because of how goofy it was. It began way back in the early days of Siege. I'm talking around probably year 2. And the better you were as a player, the more you were going to use it. It simply made your model harder to hit and increased the likelihood of winning a trade. But a 2018 nerf fixed the lean spam and liberated many fingers previously bonded to Q&E on a silly level. When Jaeger lost his ACOG, the entire community stood in solitary with Jaeger mains. Mourning the loss of such a magnificent feature, Ubisoft's reasoning behind the removal was that it made spawn killing easy because Jaeger and Bandit were so fast, and giving them long range precision on top of their mobility was just too much. Jaeger's pick rate plummeted. While Ubisoft execs counted the fat stacks of cash they made just by protecting the newbies from those evil spawn killers, but like clockwork, the R6 dev team found a way to recycle old ideas as they introduced 2 operators with ACOGs on their pistol. Less than 15 months after they took away the ACOG from Jaeger as well. And somehow, this was even more broken than the ACOG equipped rifles because the new pistol had like 0 recoil and killed you in just 2 shots. Cade can now do the same thing as ACOG Jaeger, only better. However, the good times didn't last forever for Cade and Nomad spammers because Ubisoft patched it within a couple of weeks. Cade's pistol had its damage reduced from 74 damage to 54 a shot, while simultaneously increasing the recoil so follow-up shots would be harder at long distance, and it's considered one of the best guns that Rainbow Six Siege has ever had in a short amount of time. Cade's pistol wasn't the only weapon in Siege with ridiculously low recoil. When Ela was first introduced in September 2017 as part of the Blood Orchid update, her SMG felt like a literal laser gun. You just pointed at whatever you wanted to drop dead and held the trigger for about a second. Oh, and her magazine capacity was 50, rather than 30 you see in other automatic weapons of this type. Combined with Ela's speed and her gadget, the concussive grenade, this quickly turned into a deadly cocktail for any attacker who ventured too far from their team. Loners would easily get picked off by a roaming Ela, and her concussive grenades were an excellent source of intel for teammates because as soon as one popped, you knew exactly where the enemy was and what they were planning. What's insane about this is this actually slowed down your sensitivity when you hit her concussion mines. In January 2018, her weapons magazine size was reduced from 50 to 40, and her concussion mines no longer prevented you from sprinting, which meant that you had a chance of fighting back against Ela. Later in 2022, Ubisoft removed the slowing effect entirely from Ela's concussion mines, putting a major dent in the effectiveness of her ambush strat, and her recoil was changed altogether, which made her almost like a shell of her former self. With the Shadow Legacy update in August 2020, Siege received 3 new scope types: the 1.5 times scope, the 2.0, and the 3.0. Previously, ACOG used to be the 3.0. Before the high caliber update in November 2021, LMGs has always been kind of meh. Useful in specific scenarios, like when you need to suppress an area or rip through barricades, but otherwise inferior to rifles such as Ash's R4C or Zophia's M762. But when guns started getting balanced and everything started getting slowed down, the LMGs began to look better in comparison. For example, Zophia's rifle got increased vertical recoil. Ashe also got the same treatment with her R4C. Combined with the increase to the ADS time, these two were no longer the weapons of choice for fraggers looking to frag out. So players started experimenting, and what do you know? LMGs were actually good now that everything else became worse, plus LMGs did receive a buff. A bunch of players quit because every weapon they originally liked now felt worse, especially with the F2 losing her vertical grip. It basically made every fun gun not usable anymore. Operation Brutal Storm Year 7 Season 3 lowered the recoil on rifles such as the R4C and M762 while increasing recoil on LMGs such as the 6P41 and LMG-E. This broke up the power imbalance between LMGs and ARs to a significant extent and made it so rifles were viable once again, and people started using these way more. Finally, I've arrived at the most broken meta, the utility meta. It was loved by team players, but hated by brain-dead John Wick types who confuse the size of their ego with the measurement of their skill. What the meta did was highlight the importance of map clearing tools if you were an attacker.
Para ter os dois jogadores se segurando e quem tá defendendo essa escada amarela, que é importantíssima aí pro mapa consulado, é o Hellraiser. Segunda flash, 3, mais uma, por outro lado. Minha nossa senhora! Olha só esse combo!
Because every team would stack up utility-based defenders like Smoke, Goyo, Jaeger, Wamai, Kapkan, Frost, and Mute. Basically, a lot of shields with denial for those shields. For example, an operator like Goyo, before his rework, if you're a newer Rainbow Six Siege player, you wouldn't know this, but Goyo's canisters used to come with shields. So instead of just individually placing your Goyo canisters on walls and whatnot for denial, you would literally have shields that you can bust if you need to rotate off and stop roaming or stop playing a certain objective. So it made just attacking super difficult, especially with the amount of shields that you would have. It all started with the release of Operation Ember Rise in August of 2019, which introduced Goyo and his Vulcan shield that could stall pushes with one bullet. Even if you killed Goyo, his teammates could use a well-placed shield to bolster their defensive status and win despite even a numbers disadvantage. And when you stacked other defensive gadget like Wamai magnets on top of this, it became an absolute chore to destroy even one of their shields, because you would have some asshole peeking through a bullet hole so he can destroy your skull. Jaeger's ADS and Wamai's magnets prevented attackers from blowing up these shields, and Smoke would make things even harder by throwing his smoke mines after the ADSs got burned. Just to annoy you further, there would be a regular deployable shield in front of the Vulcan shields, and both looked similar from the front, so if you weren't paying attention, you would not be able to clear it. The utility meta died in 2022 with nerfs to Goyo's shields. He was turned into more of an aerial denial operator by taking away the shield and giving him 2 more canisters instead. Smoke also lost his deployable shield alongside other utility-based defenders, and this put an end to the utility meta. This was unfortunate because instead of a slow and tactical pacing of utility meta, you know, like Siege is supposed to be, we ended up being catapulted into the Call of Duty style gameplay, which honestly looked more like a WWE battle royale with guns rather than a cold and counter-terrorism simulator. And there you have it, my top picks for the most broken metas in R6 history. Which ones did you hate the most, and are there any of the metas that you would like to see a return of? Personally, I was quite fond of the utility meta, and I wouldn't mind Recruit making a return with his shields and M870. I think Siege needs to go back to its slower pace tactical roots rather than turning into another generic run and gun shooter. Not everything needs to be like COD, and Siege should try to preserve its own identity, which made us fall in love with it in the first place. Anyways, that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, sub, and comment, and let me know what you like and don't like about the current meta. And if you'd like to see more videos in this format, make sure that you comment down below mixed berries pie. The keel has big toes, just so I know who made it to the very end of the video. Besides that, guys, have a great day.